Welcome back to our conversation about the economy with Peter Cohan of Babson College, author of Scaling Your Startup. And in the new book, you talk about how we're at a disadvantage with one of our biggest tech sector competitors, Silicon Valley. A lot of places are at a disadvantage with them, but how is that affecting us, and what should we be doing, in your view, to level that playing field, or at least try to level it?
It's a very difficult challenge because Boston's high-tech industry really excels at developing technology for business computing. Things like storing data and analyzing data and protecting data from cyber attacks and things like that. Whereas in Silicon Valley, there's that, but there's also big consumer-focused, world-changing brands like Facebook and Google and Airbnb and companies like that that have really just created entirely new industries that didn't exist. Whereas in Boston, we have a lot of sort of back-office kinds of technology. So if you have somebody who's really ambitious, and interestingly, we talked about Wayfair before. I talked to a manager there who last year left Wayfair to go work for one of these companies in Silicon Valley because, first of all, it was a very well-financed pre-IPO company that they were going to get stock in that company before it went public, and the opportunity to grow there was just so much greater. And Silicon Valley has lots of these companies, and the Boston area basically has very few. I mean, it has some in like TripAdvisor, which is sort of consumer-focused, but it's a relatively small industry. It's not sort of a world-transforming industry like Facebook. And you look at Mark Zuckerberg, who started Facebook in his dorm room in Cambridge, and now moved it out to California.
Well, realistically, what can we do about it?
There's really not much we can do about it, unless somebody who has the ability and does create a company like that decides not to go out there. I mean, in theory, there's no reason why you could do it here. The talent you could get here. I mean, a lot of that talent is educated in here.
Yeah.
So why don't they stay? I mean, it's less expensive to run a business here, even though it's very expensive. It's compared to Silicon Valley, it's relatively inexpensive. So it really would take somebody who, instead of Mark Zuckerberg going out to Silicon Valley, decides to stay here, and that could create an ecosystem here.
Well, look, Peter, like many of our viewers, I'm not all that far away from retirement age. The hair dye helps helps maintain my deceptively youthful appearance.
You are deceptively youthful.
But so I'm sort of nervously eyeing the market and eyeing my 401k. I try not to, ride the roller coaster too hard. But how nervous should I be amid these trade wars and things like the president threatening to fire the Fed chairman?
There's a lot of instability, and I think there's going to continue to be instability at least until the election. I think that the president enjoys reinforcing that instability because he thinks it works with his base. So, there's going to be a lot of up and down. The stock market, since there was a crash last December, and it's come back a lot from that, but it's still basically flat since then. So the answer is, if you have a lot of time, keep regularly investing in a stock index fund, in your 401k or retirement fund. Over time, the stocks earn 7% returns over a long time frame. So I think that's the place to be. If you are really nervous and you want to just lock in whatever gains you have and you evaluate the tax implications of it, I think now would be a perfectly good time to just lighten up on stocks, because there's a lot of negative things that could potentially happen, and nobody really knows what's going to happen tweet to tweet in the world.
Well, I'm already growing a lot of basil in my backyard, so at least I can live off the pesto. Basil.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, you need the tomatoes as well.
Pesto diet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Listen, thank you very much. Please come back again soon.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
We'll continue the conversation.
Have a great summer. That's
Peter Cohan of Babson College, author of Scaling Your Startup, Mastering the 4 Stages from Idea to $10 billion. That's all our time for this weekend. And now I'm going to send it back over to my colleagues for much more WBZ News.